Imagine your smartphone, an electric car, or advanced medical equipment. These everyday items, which we often take for granted, are only possible because of a group of elements most people have never even heard of. What do they have in common? They all rely on rare earth minerals. 17 metallic elements that are essential to the technology that powers our lives. These elements are the secret ingredients behind the scenes, enabling everything from renewable energy and electric vehicles to advanced defense systems and high-tech electronics. Without rare earths, production lines for innovative products would grind to a halt. The world as we know it would look very different, less connected, less efficient, and far less advanced. For the US, this isn't just about economics, it's about national security. Rare earths are critical for fighter jets, precision-guided missiles, radar systems, and countless other military technologies. The Pentagon is acutely aware that America's technological edge and its ability to defend itself depends on a steady, reliable supply of these minerals. But there's a catch. China dominates the rare earth supply chain, controlling up to 90% of global processing capacity. This means that most of the world's rare earths are refined and processed in China before they reach manufacturers. Even if other countries mine rare earths, they often must send them to China for refining, making them dependent on a single nation for a critical resource. This dominance gives Beijing immense leverage, turning rare earths into a powerful geopolitical weapon. In times of tension, China can threaten to restrict exports, putting global industries at risk. The term rare earths is actually misleading. They're not especially rare in the Earth's crust, but they are difficult and expensive to mine and process in an environmentally responsible way. For years, Western nations avoided the environmental costs and challenges, leaving China to fill the gap and take control of the market. Now, the US and its allies face a stark reality. The invisible engine powering their economies and militaries is largely controlled by their main strategic rival. This dependency has become a full-blown economic and security crisis, raising urgent questions about how to secure supply chains and reduce vulnerability. The question is, what happens when that supply is threatened? The answer could reshape the future of technology, industry, and global power. On October 9, 2025, China escalated trade tensions to a new level, sending ripples through the global economy and raising alarms in boardrooms and government offices worldwide. The government announced an expansion of export controls on rare earth minerals, critical resources used in everything from smartphones and electric vehicles to advanced military technology. Now, foreign companies must obtain explicit approval from Chinese authorities before exporting any products containing these elements, a process that has become far more stringent and unpredictable. Firms are also required to disclose the final destination and intended use of these goods, adding layers of bureaucracy and scrutiny to every transaction. This move weaponized China's dominance in the rare earth market, sending shockwaves through global industries that depend on these materials for production and innovation. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent called it, "pointing a bazooka at the supply chains of the free world," highlighting the gravity of the situation. With these new powers, China can now selectively choke off supplies to specific companies or entire countries, putting American and European manufacturers at immediate risk of shortages and production delays. Beijing claims it's simply responding to U.S. blacklisting of Chinese tech firms and the imposition of new port fees, framing the controls as a defensive measure to protect its own interests. But to much of the world, this is seen as a calculated escalation, a strategic move designed to force Washington and its allies to the negotiating table under pressure. The new rules inject a deep sense of uncertainty into every business that relies on Chinese components, making long-term planning and investment decisions far more difficult. Companies could see production halted overnight, not by market forces or consumer demand, but by a single political decision in Beijing. The policy is forcing businesses to choose sides in a growing economic conflict, creating an atmosphere of fear, instability, and strategic uncertainty. The bazooka isn't just aimed at the US, it threatens the entire globalized economy, disrupting trade routes and business relationships across continents. The world's supply chains are now hostage to geopolitics, with every shipment and contract subject to the shifting winds of international rivalry. America's response was immediate and uncompromising, signaling a dramatic escalation in the ongoing trade standoff with China. President Trump, flanked by his economic advisors, announced a sweeping 100% tariff on all Chinese imports, effective November 1. The message was clear: the United States would not tolerate what it saw as economic aggression. This was all-out economic war, a move designed to make Chinese goods unaffordable for American consumers and to pressure Beijing to reverse its rare earth policy. The stakes had never been higher. Trump's rhetoric was blunt and unapologetic. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be exposed as being a nothing. His words resonated with supporters, but alarmed many in the business community. Unlike previous targeted tariffs that focused on specific industries, this was a blanket measure, risking major disruption to both economies and threatening to upend global supply chains overnight. Trump's unpredictable style, mixing threats with sudden conciliatory messages, kept markets and allies guessing, fueling uncertainty on Wall Street and in capitals around the world. The tariff is a double-edged sword. While it aims to punish China, it could also hurt U.S. consumers and businesses, driving up prices and putting American jobs at risk. By raising the stakes so dramatically, Trump made it politically difficult for either side to back down, locking both nations into a high-stakes confrontation with no easy exit. The world is watching closely. Will this bold gamble force China to yield, or will it drag both nations, and perhaps the global economy, into even deeper conflict? The outcome of this standoff could reshape global trade for years, or even decades to come, affecting millions of lives far beyond US and Chinese borders. The countdown to November 1st has begun, and the world holds its breath, waiting to see what happens next. Treasury Secretary Bessent knew America couldn't face China alone. He rushed to build a coalition with Europe, Japan, South Korea, and India, aiming to present a united front. The goals show China its actions have global consequences and secure supply chains beyond Beijing's reach. But cracks quickly appeared. Many allies, especially in Europe, have deep economic ties to China and fear a trade war. Bessent's strategy hinges on collective action, but allies are hesitant to follow Washington's lead. Some prefer quiet deals with Beijing over confrontation. The coalition is fragile, and the crisis demands swift action. Bessent walks a diplomatic tightrope, trying to rally support while managing allies' anxieties. The coalition's success, or failure, will shape the outcome of this conflict. Behind the scenes, the Trump administration is divided. Trump pushes hardline tariffs and public threats, even hinting at canceling a summit with Xi Jinping. Bessent, meanwhile, favors negotiation, suggesting tariffs could be avoided if talks succeed. This good cop, bad cop dynamic sends mixed signals to allies and adversaries alike. Bessent even hints the rare earth crisis could be a misunderstanding, offering China a face-saving way out. The risk confusion undermines U.S. credibility, and China may exploit the split. As the tariff deadline nears, the world waits to see which voice will prevail. The rare earth conflict is tangled with another crisis: Russia's war in Ukraine. China's support for Russia, supplying dual-use components for drones, adds a dangerous layer to US-China tensions. Bessent has threatened new tariffs targeting China's support for Russia, but only if European allies join in. Europe is torn. It opposes Russia's war but fears provoking China. The convergence of trade and security issues raises the stakes for all sides. For the US, ignoring China's support for Russia is not an option. For China, its partnership with Russia is strategic. Any resolution on rare earths now requires grappling with the broader global power struggle. The US-China standoff has rattled global markets. Trump's tariff threat triggered a Wall Street sell-off. Hints of negotiation brought a rebound. This volatility shows how much the world depends on stable US-China relations. Businesses are paralyzed, unsure whether to move supply chains or wait for a deal. America's allies, especially Germany and Japan, are anxious, caught between economic interests in China and pressure from Washington. The looming tariff deadline could spark global recession or set a new precedent for resolving disputes. The upcoming Trump-Xi summit in South Korea is a pivotal moment. The world is holding its breath. Will leaders step back from the brink or plunge into a new era of economic hostility?